fishing. Maybe you get a boat, you go out on Lake Erie, you go for, you fish all day. Whatever you want to do. You have a good time with your friends, you have a few drinks. It's just a wonderful day. That's not how it was for them. It was work. It wasn't fishing with a line, it was fishing with a net. And so it was hard, it was dangerous, and it was third shift. Apparently, if I understand it, fish are not blind. And if they see the net coming, they skedaddle. And so they would fish at night to sort of catch the fish unaware. And these guys have been doing this on Lake Galilee for centuries. Men and probably some women have been out there fishing. So they knew the best times and the best places to catch them. And that's what some of the apostles were. They were fishermen, and they had been out fishing all night. Meanwhile, Jesus comes along, and he's doing his work, which is telling people about the kingdom of God being at hand, and that we need to participate in that. My favorite summary of it comes from the Gospel of Mark, where it says, Jesus came into Galilee preaching the gospel of God, saying, the time is fulfilled, the kingdom of God is at hand, repent and believe the gospel. And that's like a summary of what Jesus said. He used a whole lot of different words, a whole lot of different illustrations, but his central message was, the time is now, the place is here, repent, give up your old mind, your old way, and begin this trust walk with God. Believe the gospel. And so that's what he preached. And he was very successful if you count numbers. He was, there was no radio and there was no TV. There was, when a person like Jesus came around, he was someone to go see and go hear. And so it got to the place where people being people, they were bumping into each other and up against him and crowding around. And this was often his experience. And so he was by the shore and he got down into one of the boats from the fishermen that had been working all night so he could have a little bit of space. And then he sat down to teach, which is in the Jewish custom of that day, the teacher would sit down to teach. So now that you have that as a background, here we go. Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw two boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. So in other words, they worked all night. Now they were going to wash their nets and hang them up and put them away for the day and then go back to work the next night. So he got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. So he just needed a little bit of space. Not too much space, not too little space, just enough space. You notice how that is with you? If somebody's too close, you back up. If somebody's too far away, you get closer. There's a right space. And it varies from culture to culture. And so, for us, me, the German background, probably 6 feet's about right. But if you're from Italy, it might be like 2 feet. And you're like, whoa! But it's different cultures, different ways. So, but whatever the case, it was way too close for him. Too many people jostling around, no place to sit. He got into one of the boats and he spoke from there. When he had finished speaking, so here's Simon. He's giving hospitality to Jesus. He could have said, no, get your own darn boat, but he didn't. They were taught, he was raised right. He was raised that when someone asks for you a favor, you try to do it, unless you've got a good reason not to. It's just hospitality and kindness. And so he just, Jesus said, may I get out in your boat and give me a little space? And he did. So while Jesus is preaching, Simon's nets are up there on the shore, and maybe they're not quite put away yet. But he's listening because he's got no other choice in the matter. But it it's not like it's a bad thing. This is Jesus preaching, and this is something that if there's anything in him that was awake at all, you'd think that he would have felt something about that this was exceptional. I don't know if you've heard that or felt that yourself, but I pray to God sometimes when I'm speaking that may be the case for you, because I'm doing my best to try to speak the gospel to you, that it's like a freshness, like an awakening, like a quickening, like a cleanness, like a purity, like a wow, like something stirring within. And that can be how you experience teaching that is getting to your heart and to your soul. So I hope that Simon experienced some of the sermon of Jesus in that way. So when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch," which is kind of like something that a person that doesn't know anything about fishing would say. You know, it's like you're trying to use the wrong side of the paintbrush or something. I mean, it's like, what? You don't fish during the daytime. But this is, of course, a spiritual lesson. Put out into the deep water, and that is symbolic often of the fish and water are symbols in the early church of the boat is a symbol for the church. The net is the symbol for evangelism. The fish are a symbol for us people who follow God and know Jesus Christ. But also from a psychological perspective, when you dream about deep water, and you dream about swimming, these can be references to your own deeps, your own inner self, and that's a part of you that needs some kind of awakening, integration, embodiment. And so sometimes we also have dreams like deep water and nets and fish. So Jesus says to go out in the deep water, let down your nets for a catch. Simon answered, "Master, we've worked all night long, but have caught nothing." So he's kind of like saying, look, you fish at nighttime. Yet if you say so, I'll let down the nets. So they went out and they let down their nets, because the only way to find out is to try, right? The only way to find out is to try. Is the cake good? Only one way to really know. You got to try it. The words that I speak and the words that you read in the Bible and the words that you hear here and there are like the menu of a restaurant. They speak about the food, they are not the food itself. The food itself needs to be experienced, it needs to be tried. And then you know. It doesn't matter what the picture looks like, what the words say. The truth is in the tasting. The truth is in the doing. And what my father used to say about chocolate cake, he used to ask for a second slice because he would say, "I'm not sure about it yet." So instead of just saying, "No, Jesus, you don't know what you're talking about, you fish at night," they said, "If you say so, we'll let down the nets." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So this is a miracle, of course. This is just it's a historical miracle or it's a spiritual story. Either way, the meaning is the same. That when they followed Jesus, they came up against an abundance beyond all that they could ask or think. Their nets were beginning to break. They signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. They came and filled both boats so that they began to sink. So it's just like, it was a miracle, which is exactly how Simon Peter responds. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." In the presence of the divine, we sometimes see how much of ourselves that is not divine. This is what Peter was experiencing. For he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of fish that they had taken. And so also were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid." I just want you to hear that a couple of more And so we all need to hear Jesus say to us, do not be afraid. We all need to hear that there's a bigger story that holds the little story of our life, and that we're going to be all right. We need to even know that if you're on a vent in the hospital, do not be afraid. We need to know that I will never leave you or forsake you, says Jesus. So do not be afraid. We're trying something new and we've never done it before, and we think God wants us to do it. Do not be afraid. So we all need to hear this because we're all afraid. And courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is, of course, facing our fears and doing what's right anyway. So it takes a certain steeling oneself against one's own inner anxiety. Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people. When they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. And that means they took Jesus as their teacher, and they took themselves to be his followers in a deeply committed way, meaning they left their nets, they left their boat, and they followed Jesus. Now the story is Zebedee had other servants, so it wasn't like the fishing business bellied up, but it does mean that these men started eating with Jesus, following Jesus around for 3 years. They hung out with him. Where he went, they went. That's what this is about. So the teaching of Jesus wasn't just to hear what he said, but it was to watch how he lived. And they did that. And it was such a better thing than what they had been doing before. They had just been fishermen. Now they were apostles. So it's a step into service for humanity instead of just service for yourself. We all, of course, need to take care of ourselves, but we're really something if we're taking care of others. It's a step of service. Let me put it this way. What's the difference between a guest and family? If your family, it's your house, and the guest is, say, coming to your house. And so you maybe quick clean up the living room a little bit and throw the laundry in the spare bedroom so they don't see it. And you go to the kitchen, and you say, would you care for a cup of tea? And you look out for them and you brush the dog hair off the sofa. Okay, here, have a seat, right? And you take care of them because you're the family. What do you do when you're the guest? You try to be a good guest, right? You don't say, the tea's all right, but my mom's tea's better, Or dog hair. No, you go to the bathroom and look around, ooh, it's dirty. That's not, but there are guests like that, of course. But there's a difference between being a family and being a guest. Peter was being called from being a guest to being in God's family. He was being called from being served to serving. And think about that a little bit with how you are with your life and with Park Church. Let's start with Park Church. When you come here as a guest, which is fine. Or do you come here as family? If you come as a guest, you might go sermon was too long, temperature was too hot. Family knows that too, by the way. But it's a different way of being. You're here to take care of the guests because they're in your house, right? That's the way it is. And now think about being in the world at large. Whose world? This is my Father's world. Right? Isn't that what we're saying? And so you are family, and the house is the whole world. So wherever you go, you're family. You're not a guest. So think about that. That wherever you go, you're there as family of God's house. And you're not a guest. The people who are guests are people who don't get it yet, that they're loved and that they're family too. But you can't do anything anything about it. All you can do is love people and hope that they will move into the greater happiness that comes with being family. Another thing is it's a call to responsibility, like being from a child to an adult. Taking responsibility. Peter and the disciples needed to take responsibility. They joined Jesus in his mission. So they got to work studying and learning, and then they spent the rest of their lives teaching, and they died in his behalf. This you can see as a big mistake if you think that death is the end of the world, because then you would have to say, like when Jesus called them to being apostles, later on they died, so that can't be good. But if you know that we're all going to die anyway, but somehow living in God is such a superior, such a good thing, such an abundant life that none of them regretted it. They may have had bad times, but they were willing to die because they saw a life that was greater than death. So this is Black History Month, and we were at the multi-faith clergy breakfast a couple of days ago, and one of the things our table talked about was racism, and then the different tables got up and they spoke about what we need to do. What can we do about, they talked about racism, public transportation, and food deserts. And those were the three issues we took up. And table after table said, we need to teach our children. And then the next table said, we need to teach our children. And they're right, but only halfway. There's a mistake in there too. Because here's the thing. I was once a child, and my parents did their best to teach me not to be a racist. They went out of their way to have a little boy from the neighborhood named Chuck. That I don't know. I don't try. I don't know how I got to know him. I think my parents set it up. He was a little African American young man. And we ran together like that. I think they were trying to teach me not to be a racist. And the same way, my dad did some teaching at Lincoln University, which is like a school that was for people who were African American. And so my dad and mom tried to teach me not to be a racist. And let's say that there's difficulties in that, and I discovered that there's parts of me that still have a way to go. There's things I've said and things I've done that are what they call microaggressions. An example of like that might be touching a black woman's hair, like you have a right to do that. You don't have a right to do that. Or someone who's African American that's speaking really well, and then you say, oh, they speak well. You say, well, if they were white, would you say that? No. And so there's these little microaggressions that were still a part of my life. But here's the big story isn't that. The big story is that what happens if these children that we teach not to be racist grow up and they go to the multi-faith banquet clergy lunch or breakfast and they say to them, what should we do about racism 20 years from now? And all they say is we need to teach the children. It's like we just keep passing it on to the next generation. We screwed it up, maybe the next generation will get it right. But when is it that we get it right? The time we get it right is now. Because now I'm a grown man, and I've got money in my pocket, and I got education, and I can do some things. Now's the time when I need to do the things that need to be done. Not just waiting for the next generation to do something. I'm the child that they were waiting for, and so are you. And so was Peter and the disciples. So I'm saying there's a kind of growing up and taking responsibility where you don't just hope that the next generation will get it right. Because that's true. We do want to teach our children right and wrong. We do want to teach our children to be loving. We do want to teach our children to be just and fair. But then we hope they will grow up and use their education, and use their power, and use their energy, and use their knowledge to change the world. We don't expect them to do it when they're children. So why should we put off our part? And so it was that when Jesus called Peter into service, he was not saying that you now can put this off, and Peter, I've taught you all this so you can teach your children. Peter needed to teach his children, but Peter himself needed to change and do. And so it is for us. So yes, we need to teach our children about Jesus. We need to teach our children about the right way to live. We need to teach our children all these things. But just as much, we need to take responsibility for our own lives and step up. Jesus got into the boat with Peter, and his life changed forever. He was called on a mission as big as God. God's mission is really to save the world. It's in one of the letters it says, God does not wish any to perish, but all to come to repentance. God wants the salvation of the whole world. God is an all-the-way God, a complete God over everything, so he doesn't want half the people to be half saved. He wants all the people to be all the way saved. And that means a lot of different things. But it's a big story, and it's one that's beyond us, but we're a part of it. You can be a part of all kinds of smaller stories. You're a part of your own story. And some days you win and some days you lose, and your team wins or your team loses, or whatever you follow, it's a good day or a bad day. But this is to be called part of the biggest story that there is. The meaning of the universe and our place in it. It doesn't get any better than that. It's like being called out of the little leagues and asked to pitch in the World Series. I mean, we're talking about your life matters here. So many times we think, well, that's for other people. But these are ordinary people that God called through Jesus Christ. People just like you. In fact, not just like you. You are called to participate in this. Now, Peter's response, one of them is like that I'm a sinner. It just felt awful when the miracle happened. Instead of like, hot dog, I won the lottery. Woohoo, the fish are everywhere. Instead of that, he's like, oh, I'm a sinner. What an interesting response. And I think it's a legitimate one. From the priest from the 1700s, Fenelon, he writes this. As the light grows, we see ourselves to be worse than we thought. We're amazed at our former blindness as we see issuing from our heart a whole swarm of shameful feelings, like filthy reptiles crawling from a hidden cave. But we must be neither amazed nor disturbed. We are not worse than we were. On the contrary, we are better. But while our faults diminish, the light we see them by waxes brighter, and we are filled with horror. So long as there is no sign of cure, we are unaware of the depth of our disease. We are in a state of blind presumption and hardness, the prey of self-delusion. While we go with the stream, we are unconscious of its rapid course. But when we begin to stem it ever so little, it makes itself felt. So he's saying Peter wasn't the worst sinner because he got around Jesus, but when he got around the light of Jesus, he saw his sin that had always been there. And in fact, it's a part of the cure to feel the awfulness of it. And sometimes we need to taste that because we learn good habits so many times by bad habits regretted. And so Peter feels rotten, but it's a part of his healing. Another thing about this is we have been, if you come from some church traditions, this fishers of men and evangelism emphasis is quite dominant, and you can feel guilty. Like if you don't go out, like how many souls have you saved? You can feel rotten, like you haven't been out evangelizing, and what's the matter with you? Or when you get to heaven, how many people are going to meet you there that you brought to the Lord? And this is a pressure that's on people. And instead of them feeling free and fresh and pure and light in God and loved by God, they feel like, oh, I'm not out there doing the work. And so when people are being told about Jesus Christ, it's not necessarily because they are loved, it's because we don't want to go to heaven empty-handed, or we don't want to feel so bad about ourselves. And so the people are almost being used for our own sense of inner calm and completeness. And so that's the kind of evangelism I think that people don't like. They feel like they're being used. They don't feel like they're really loved for who they are. It's just what they can give. They're being instrumentalized. Which is why I am strongly against the saying, fresh blood. I hear it once in a while in every church I've ever served. It's like we're vampires. We get together at a council meeting, and every church, every single one. I've heard it in other religious communities too. So it's probably true at the Islamic Center and at the Jewish temple, and that is, there are the same people looking at each other across the council chambers, and they say, our church needs fresh blood. Oh, it's awful. It's like whose blood can we drink? People are not fresh blood. People are beloved for who they are and where they are. And yes, we need to welcome people into the realm of God, not because we feel guilty and bad, and not because we want their stuff, we want their money, and we want their talents, and we want their energies, but because we want to share with them the joy and the peace and the path of Jesus Christ that has brought so much love to us. So it's actually not what they can give us, but what we're giving them. We need to. So I have to say, when I'm at a council meeting and that gets said, sometimes I say something, sometimes I don't. But it's a change of perspective in terms of what is it to follow Jesus Christ. Are we takers or are we givers? When Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men, because he said, because they need fresh blood, because they need more bucks and bucks. Is it what? It's because they had an abundance to share. It wasn't about getting, it was about giving. And so, beloved children of God, you're going about your life. You're a fisherman or whatever it is you are. And next thing you know, Jesus shows up, gets in the boat with you, and then he calls you to the highest calling possible. I believe that this is true for every single one of us here. We're all in the same boat together.